Okay, let's do a quick exercise with Cronbach Alpha, and we'll use our mascot data set. Okay, so I have created over here this overall construct of liking mascots. That's what I called it, because the higher the score, the more people seem to like mascots. And I averaged all of my mascots into this construct right here. So let me go in here to analyze, and I'm going to come down here to scale. And under scale, you'll just have to remember that, sorry, it does say reliability analysis. This Cronbach alpha is one of the most commonly used measures of reliability. And so that's why we're going to use this reliability analysis here. Okay, what we're going to do then, scale, reliability analysis, boom. I'm going to put every variable that I used in my construct over there, like mascot, into this box called items. So all the way down through the RAM. The RAM is my last mascot that people judged on the Likert scale. I'm going to choose alpha. There are other measures. There's split half and Gutmann and parallel. Generally, alpha is the most common. That doesn't mean it's always the best. There's some disagreement about that. But unless you really want to um, write papers on reliability and how the different measures are constructed, which ones are the best, I would suggest you stay with alpha just because it's well known, not only in our field, but in all fields, psychological research, sociological research. Under statistics here, I really like to look at what the scale would be if a certain item were deleted. If you'd like on here, you can get descriptives for each item or descriptives for the scale. Let's do that. It's going to be way too much output, but it's kind of fun to see. You can even get the correlations between all the items. Okay, let's do this. I'm afraid I've asked for way too much data, but that's okay. We'll have fun with this. Okay, so there were 55 respondents, and Cronbach's alpha was 0.839. There's also a Cronbach's alpha on standardized items, and once again, you may use this. Some people say standardizing the item is a good idea, but generally we go just with the straight up Cronbach's alpha in this case because we only report two decimals, two numerals after the decimal, excuse me. This is 0.84, this is 0.84, so not a lot of difference. Okay, here's just for my own interest, and this might make a nice table. These are the means and standard deviations on all of the items. So notice as I look down means, I can just use this even in my results section and say it looks like Cougar at 4.33 was the most beloved or the most well-liked mascot. That's kind of cool. And what was the least liked? Let's see, a 3.45 maybe? The cardinal? Oh no, here we go. The bee. Oh yeah, the poor bee. 2.65 was the least liked. However, which of these items created the most variability? It looks like the Viking. At a 1.4 here, that means we had quite a bit of disagreement and variability on how well liked the Viking is. Interesting. Okay, here are the correlations between all of them, and this is a table that you wouldn't just paste into your paper because there's way too much information. Notice that here's Bobcat to Cardinal at 0.419, and here's Cardinal to Bobcat at 0.419. So all of this information is repeated. If you were to copy and paste this into your table, generally people get rid of this entire bottom triangle here. Just report all the way across, leaving some blanks, making the table easier to understand. And then you would have to justify why this was in there. Quite frankly, because I love numbers, I think it's fascinating. Like, look at the The high correlation between Viking and Spartan. Interesting. Between Knight and Spartan. And yet almost no correlation between the Spartan and the bee. It's basically zero, telling you that the way people feel about Vikings and Spartans and Trojans is quite different than how they feel about bees. In fact, what is the bee most highly correlated to? Oh, maybe here, the ram or the cardinal. That kind of makes sense. I mean, so the way people feel about bees is somewhat related to the way they feel about cardinals. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so then here is this whole thing that I'm not going to put in my paper, but that might be helpful because sometimes if the Cronbach is not high enough, whereas ours is high enough, I like ours, but say it were a zero point 0.6, and I looked along here and I saw, look at this, let's check out the B for example. If I take the B out, it becomes a 0.843. That's just a little bit higher than what it is right now. And that tells me the B actually doesn't add to the consistency of the scale. There's something about the B that just doesn't quite fit with the other mascots. The same thing will apply to you. If you look at the responses to the Likert questions you asked, and if it says that by removing one, your B, whatever your B may be, the Cronbach alpha actually goes up, then that's a good clue that that item didn't quite fit in with the others. And because this is a pilot study, when you go ahead and administer your scale, you may want to reword or even completely eliminate that one. For now, I'm going to leave the B in. Nothing is dramatically changing my Cronbach alpha. I've got some good information here. I've got a scale with a mean of 49.8, a standard deviation of 8.9. That's okay. That's an interesting statistic to report too. That's assuming that you added all the items of your scale together, which is what we do for some of the big well-known scales, the Beck Depression Index, or even if you pick up a beauty magazine and it has you take a scale, how much do I like, how much joy is there in my life? They often have you add your responses, and that's what this is here. And that is reliability, really enough reliability to get through a dissertation. I'd be surprised if anyone asks for more. And every scale that you see out there, a scale that you might borrow from or a scale that you might actually use, should have these statistics. They should say that alpha was blah, blah, blah. And you should report this, that the original authors of the scale came up with a Cronbach alpha of 0.84. And then when I gave the scale to my participants, my Cronbach alpha was 0.87 or 0.78 or whatever it may be. One more thing very quickly. It's not required for this class, but you may want to create one more dimension of your scale. And we talked before about how, so I'm going to reset this Cronbach alpha, how I could create a dimension of mascots that are human, like warrior type mascots. And if you remember, they were the Spartan, the Knight, the pirate, and the Viking. Notice the rest of these are animals, birds, but these are actual warriors, human beings in uniforms. Okay, so same thing. I'm just going to run in here really fast and look at what would happen if I deleted one, just in case I have a problem. I'll go for my item descriptives and the correlations because they're kind of fun. And here we go. I'm going to go ahead and request my Cronbach alpha. Now I've got a Cronbach alpha for my overall construct, but I can also report a dimension or a subscale of that construct. In this case, I might name it human mascots. The Cronbach alpha for human mascots is 0.87. So those really reliably hang together. And you can see here are the means. People tend to like them, right? The human mascots are up at a 3.7. And here are their correlations. They're quite highly correlated. The Spartan with the Knight, with the Viking, even with the Pirate, which is my lowest correlation. That's a moderate correlation. Okay, so go ahead and conduct these tests and add Cronbach's alpha into your methods section. I always see Cronbach's alpha in the methods section. And thank you.